Hello, everyone. Welcome to New Gen Politics. So, this is a clip of Joy Reid on her show this week talking about how Trump is apparently a gangster for wanting to use the power of the presidency of the most powerful country in the world to enact change globally. And somehow that makes him the villain of the world.
But let's bring you back to the U.S. and to our local gangster, Donald Trump. He's not even president yet, and he's already spending his time sitting in his golden palace, Mar-a-Lago, muscling other countries like he's Tony Soprano with a social media site. Doing things like, reportedly, debating whether or not to invade Mexico. Threatening BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, with 100% tariffs if they don't commit to trading in dollars and not their own currencies. Demanding Hamas release all hostages being held in Gaza before his inauguration, or there will be, quote, all hell to pay in the Middle East.
So the 3 points she made there is, one, Trump wants to stop the cartels, which he has talked about labeling a terrorist organization to stop their human trafficking, drug smuggling, arms smuggling into our country, which Mexico has not stopped. The next point is she doesn't like that Trump wants to enforce through tariffs that other countries around the world use the American dollar to ensure we remain the world reserve currency. Somehow that's also a bad thing. And thirdly, she's upset that Trump has told Hamas that they need to release our hostages. Somehow that is also a bad thing. So this to me just doesn't make any sense. This falls into the Trump derangement syndrome of anything Trump does is bad, whether it's trying to stop human trafficking, make sure the world economy is working, or trying to free hostages. All of those are bad things. Once good, touched by Trump, immediately bad. And for some reason, the left often has this belief that every country in the world can just get along with no repercussions whatsoever. There's no debating, there's no arguing, there's no enforcement of power. And we can all just get in a room together and talk it out. Well, that's not how it works. That's not how human behavior works. And then you scale that up to a country size. It's not going to happen. Countries use power as a mechanism for control and to push their ideologies and their agendas around the world and for their own sovereignty. And you do need other things than just power. You can't just invade everybody. You do need diplomacy, but diplomacy on its own is not enough. You do need to back up your words with actions and the ability to commit those actions. So us wanting to be the world reserve currency, that because we are the world reserve currency, we have the most influence in the world. Economically, we can stranglehold any other country. Is that a good thing? Debatably, it's up for debate whether that's actually, a good or bad thing globally. But for us personally, it's in our best interest to maintain that status. We want the ability to tell everybody else what to do, because roughly over the course of human history, America has been relatively morally good. We've definitely done some bad things, don't get me wrong, but we've opened up free trade. We're generally anti-World War. We're generally anti-slavery. We have kind of learned to rise above these things through our, jagged history to the point now where we're relatively morally fine, right? And so we would like other countries to have things like democracy, freedom. We don't want slavery. We don't want countries poisoning their people. And so we have the ability to influence those policies and that morality on other countries through our economy and through our military, and also through our diplomacy. But you get rid of the economic ability to do that, then no one can listen to you. No one has to listen to you. So you want to maintain that. And then also when we're talking about dealing with other countries and how they affect us, when Trump's talking about Mexico, the problem with the cartels has gone on for too long. Do we want to go in there and invade and destroy the cartels and start another forever war like we did in the Middle East? Probably not. But there is some things we can do. And there's either like the active intervention we could do, which is less palatable to me. But another thing we can do is just tell Mexico, you need to stop this problem yourselves. Or like Trump said, you're going to get, 100 or 200% tariff if you don't stop it, which you have the ability to help lock down the border. We can lock down our side. You lock down your side. You go after your cartels in your own country. And if not, we're going to, because we have the economic ability currently, economically stranglehold you. And that is a good that comes out of, this aggressive policy, is that you're getting rid of the cartels, which have done nothing but create harm in several countries throughout the world. So when Trump is enforcing these things like a gangster, allegedly, he kind of is, but at the same time, he's trying to benefit the most amount of people. He's trying to bring about the most amount of good for the most amount of people. And if we go in and we just start wars and we just knock out the cartels and create a vacuum and another one takes its place, that doesn't really help the people of Mexico. We could, it may help the people of America, lock down our border, whatever. That doesn't really help Mexico or its people either. But if Trump is basically telling Mexico, you want to trade with us, you have to clean up your country for your people, which will also help our people. That's going to help the most amount of people. It's going to help both countries and then every other country in Central or South America that's affected by the cartels. And then when they're talking about the last point, the hostages, it's like, oh my gosh, Trump's saying that he's threatening Hamas. Yes, they have hostages. We want our hostages back. Trump says, you better give us our hostages back or else. And then somehow that's a bad thing, right? Like, how dare you threaten another, country or group or organization? It's like, well, you kind of need to, right? Because we have asked nicely and it hasn't happened yet. So you need to exert force. You don't have to exert maximum force. Like, I'm not saying we need to nuke them or anything, but you do need to exert some amount of force to get what you want. And that doesn't have to come at the total expense of other groups of people. Like when we're talking about the economic ability of countries, we don't have to, ruin countries to get them back into bricks, like totally ruin them and never forgive them and no mercy. And like, that's not what he's trying to do. He's trying to get them on board, maintain our position in the world, maintain our safety, maintain our economic superiority, our military superiority, because that's in America's best interest. And like I said, we have done bad things in the past, but overall, America and mostly the Americans, less so our government, but the American people like to strive for good morality on both sides of the aisle. They desire good things to happen. So all in all, this is just a ridiculous point she made. Trump is not acting like a gangster. He's acting like a president, a serious president of a serious country, which we haven't been for a long time. We're trying to use our influence on the world stage for the betterment of our people and to get a fair deal for everyone else. We're not trying to take over the world. We're not trying to, screw over everybody else. We want what is a fair deal. And obviously, we're going to want the bigger piece of the pie because it's for our best interest. But what he wants to do is negotiate. He's not using the American military. He's not using the American economy to totally control every single thing these countries do. He's not trying to take away their sovereignty. He just wants them to stop doing things that are hurting the American people. So that should be something that we could all get behind, right? These points seem to be extreme examples of actually good things. I don't see how any of these are really bad things that she's saying. So all in all, that's my thoughts on this. I think it's kind of silly how they paint Trump as so inherently evil that even good ideas, once he implements them, he'll always implement them in an evil way. Or if an idea that was inherently good that he decides to implement becomes evil by virtue of him, enacting it, that's just silly. And I think most people see through that. I think that's why the mainstream media has tanked. Even Joy Reid's show has tanked. And I think that the majority of Americans voted for him for these reasons, that they see Trump as actually putting Americans first in wielding the power America has, not just putting it in a shelf in a back room and locking it away. He's taking the power out and he's using it in an effective way to help Americans and to get a good deal for everyone else in the world and try to raise the standard of living for everybody. He's trying to get a fair deal. He's not trying to remove country sovereignty. He's trying to put Americans first, but he's not trying to dehumanize the rest of the world in the process, which is actually pretty unique for human history. America is still, relatively moral. As corrupt as our government is, as bad as our politicians are on both sides of the aisle, the American people remain, relatively morally strong. We don't like things like slavery. We don't like, the food and water of other countries being poisoned. We don't like people being kidnapped. We don't like, wrongful trials. We like justice. We seek good morality around the world. And when we use our power to implement that morality that we can at least all agree on, which is, the basic human rights, which not every country in the world agrees on, by the way, that's a good thing for the entire world. It's a good thing for everybody. And if we don't use it, that's going to create a vacuum that someone else is going to fill, like China, who, currently has concentration camps going on, or Russia, who I don't think any of you want as the world hegemon. So we have to use our influence. Are we the best? Maybe not. Are we the worst? Certainly not. So we should use our power effectively, and we should tailor that with our voting. We should get in people in office who are morally good, whose ideas and intentions are good, to put Americans first and foremost, but also to not intentionally harm people in the process around the world, not going after them for no reason, not trying to take away their sovereignty for no reason, wanting a good, fair deal, wanting countries to cooperate. So we'll just have to see what Trump does. I love the fact that they're just pre-hating, like Bill Maher said. They're pre-hating everything Trump does before he even does it. Any idea he has is awful and terrible and horrible. So we'll just have to see. I think people are seeing through it that not everything Trump wants to do is bad. So just criticize the things that should be criticized, but don't say everything he wants to do is awful, and anything good that Trump wants to implement immediately becomes evil. That's just ridiculous. It's silly, and it doesn't provide any room for negotiation. It doesn't provide you to actually make a good point, because you just say everything he does is wrong. There's no good. There's no room for good. Okay, well, then why even bother negotiating with the other side, right? And that's not something we want in this country. We don't want total political breakdown between the two aisles. That's not going to benefit anyone. So stay tuned, criticize what should be criticized rightfully, but have an open mind to some of the things Trump wants to do. And even the ideas, maybe you can even agree with the ideas and just say the way Trump's implementing it is wrong. That's also perfectly fine. But try to keep an open mind to what he does, and don't pre-hate before he even does it. So if you made it all the way through the video, I appreciate it. If you like the video, like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and thank you for watching.